So it's really painful to see how Kangana Ranaut has been tormented for speaking truth and being flamboyant, but still that has not let her courage down. So I will suggest and I will recommend you that speak boldly and with intellect. Never hush your voice for someone's comfort. Speak your mind and make people uncomfortable. That I will say. So children, my today's topic is what? The picture gives you imagination. He is John Dalton, the famous scientist who discovered atom. So, Dalton's atomic theory we are going to study, and we will study it in the detail. We will study about the postulates of Dalton theory. We will study about the drawbacks and achievements of Dalton. Everything. This is my compact and integrated class on Dalton's atomic theory. So I am ready to begin my discussion over Dalton's atomic theory. Children, you know that I have given you this idea in the previous classes also, that Dalton was the scientist who discovered the atom. And how does he discover the atom? It is only on the basis of the laws of chemical combination. The laws of chemical combination actually played the heroic role, I will say, to discover the atom, because from there he got to know, or he found it, that the atoms can neither be created or not destroyed, because of the conservation of law of conservation of mass and law of constant proportion. He seen that during the chemical combination mass is not changing, and he also seen that whatever is the source of the compound, the ratio by mass of the elements is not varying in the same compound. So, and he himself was an indigenous person. When you will go through his life sketch given in this box, then you will get very much inspired that how at a very small age he became the teacher and principal of a school, and that's really very inspiring. Now I am going to tell you that what postulate he given to the world that became breakthrough in understanding about the atom. So children, atom word has been derived from the Greek word, and Democritus actually had discovered the word atom from the Greek atomos, Greek word atomos, which means indivisible. So Dalton has taken this atomos, he liked this word atomos, which means indivisible, and he thought that okay, since the atoms, the tiniest particle of the matter is indivisible, so we can name it atom. This is actually simple and straight, you can say, decision for giving the name atom as the tiniest particle of the matter. So according to Dalton's theory, what are the different derivations of the law of constant proportion and conservation of mass? Because the Dalton theory explains the law of constant proportion and conservation of mass. Yes, children. So first theory says that the first postulate depicts that all matter is made up of very tiny particles called atom. No doubt about it, because the atom is the building block of every matter, and that building block of every matter itself is invisible, but makes the visible part, and that is your matter. So you can say that the size of atom is insignificant, but that makes a significant size also. यही छोटे छोटे जो particles हैं जो कि हमारी आंखों से बिल्कुल भी नहीं दिखते, ये मुझे हमें दिखने लायक मैटर को दिखाते हैं. Now the atoms are indivisible particles which cannot be created or destroyed in a chemical reaction. This is the second postulate of Dalton's. I will say, children, and I generally don't say that you learn anything, but I always encourage that you understand science. But here I am requesting you that you will learn all the postulates of Dalton theory, because these are the scientific language. It is given in totally scientific language, and that we should not mold in our own language. Better is that you will learn and you are understanding it, because I am helping you to understand. So understanding is very important, but for writing purpose you will learn it, and that is my suggestion to you. So indivisible particle means according to the Dalton, the atom is not destructible, it is not divisible, and that I will tell you later that it comes in the drawback of the Dalton's theory, and it cannot be created or destroyed, because he's seen that the mass remains conserved during the chemical reaction. So that's why he told that atom cannot be created and destroyed in a chemical reaction. Now let's talk about the third postulate of Dalton's atomic theory, and in this postulate what is given that atoms of a given element are identical in mass and chemical properties. So here what Dalton wants to say that every element is made up of atom and all the atoms of a particular element is identical in mass, means they will not differ even slightly in their masses, and their chemical properties will be also similar no means identical, but we will see that we will try to know its truth also, we will verify it, but for now you just understand that for a particular element the masses of the different atoms of that element will be equal. In the fourth postulate, atoms of different elements have different masses and chemical properties. In this theory, what Dalton is trying to say that there are so many types of elements, elements. I have told you that the kind of atoms means elements always in the NCERT. So different elements, there are around 118 elements in the periodic table, out of which 92 are the naturally occurring element, and he is saying that every element will have its own mass which will differ from the another element, means two elements cannot coincide in their masses. It will never happen that the two elements will be having the same mass, but again I will say that put a question mark over here, we will try to know about it. And the chemical properties, even the two elements will be having totally different chemical properties also. So I will keep it safe for my next lecture. Now, atoms combine in the ratio of small whole number to form compound. This is taken totally from the law of constant proportion. Children, in the exam generally what type of question is asked from the Dalton's theory, that which postulate of Dalton theory is taken from the law of conservation of mass and which from constant proportion. So that is why I am telling you that you will learn, because if you do mistake in these serial numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then also your marks can be taken away according to the CBSE marking scheme, because that has been told to the teachers and instructed to the teachers that the serial number also should be correctly written and with the theory. So both is very important. That is why it is highly recommended that you will learn. So in the law of constant proportion, it is told that the atoms combine chemically, and it is combining in the smallest whole number. I will try to judge this theory soon. And then the relative number and kind of atoms are constant in a given compound. That is correct, that the relative number and kind of atoms are always constant in a given compound, and then only the law of constant proportion will be always truthful, and it has proved its truthfulness, and that the particular compound, the kind of atom means the elements will be fixed, and the number of atoms of each element will be fixed. That is why their ratio will come, ratio by mass will come fixed. So these are the 6 postulates of the Dalton's atomic theory that I have discussed now, and now we will try to analyze the Dalton theory. Analyzing means we will see its pros and cons, its shortcomings, its drawbacks, its achievement, etc. Now here I am ready with my own work also, children, and here I am going to give you the exposure of the drawbacks of Dalton's atomic theory, means it will be a kind of eye-opener. What are the major drawbacks of Dalton's atomic theory? Because the Dalton atomic theory, no doubt it is a very, very successful theory in giving us the identification of atom, which is the tiniest particle or building block of the matter, but the Dalton has slacked somewhere also, because the Dalton has not done any experimentation himself, but he has tried to explain the experimental laws. So what theories has been taken from the experimental laws, which is done by the Lavoisier and Proust, has proved its own authenticity. Even now also it is always proved, but what Dalton himself has given has actually raised doubts, and in the course of time it was proved wrong. तो चलिए फिर जानने की कोशिश करते हैं कि डाल्टन की थ्योरी में कमियां क्या क्या रह गई थी। द फर्स्ट मेजर ड्रॉबैक ऑफ डाल्टन थ्योरी इज व्हाट? Dalton atomic theory states that atoms are indivisible. It cannot be broken further. But you know that the atoms keep the tinier particle inside it, and these particles are called the fundamental particles or subatomic particle also we call them, children. And they are neutron, protons and neutron. So further it can be divided into much smaller particle, which is your subatomic particle. So this is the major drawback of the Dalton theory, that he says that atom is indivisible. For that time period it was correct, but as the science progresses, then we come across with a more advanced theories, and this is just the result of that scientific research. The second point, what I have tried to tell you, that the Dalton's atomic theory states that all the atoms of an element have the identical masses, same masses, but children, in around 98% of the elements that are found in our Earth's crust, maximum of the elements are found having their isotopic forms. What is isotope? Isotope is the same element, but the different atoms of the same element having different masses. Like I am giving you the example of hydrogen. Hydrogen exists in 3 isotopic form: the normal hydrogen, which has the 1 atomic mass, and then the second isotopic form, which is also called normal hydrogen, is called protium. Then your second isotopic form is called deuterium, and the third isotopic form is called your tritium. So they differ in their atomic mass. It is very clear here that the just hydrogen, which is abundant in our surrounding, has 1 atomic mass because it consists only 1 proton, and then neutron also comes in one of the isotope of the hydrogen, which is deuterium, and 2 neutrons are found in the second isotope of the hydrogen, which is called tritium. So they all are hydrogen. Their atomic number is not changing, that is why they are same element, but since their mass number is changing, that is why they differ in their masses. So it is not correct to say that the same atom will not have the different masses in different atoms. It can be found easily. It is very common thing. The isotopic forms of maximum of the atoms are available, children. So it is a major drawback, I will say. Now Dalton says that the different elements are totally different from one another. They cannot be similar in any respect. He is trying to say this, that the different element will be totally different from one another. There will not be any similarity. But it has been found that the different elements, they are different elements, but they coincide in their masses. Yes, ma'am. Just like in the same element, the atoms are having different masses, and in different elements, the masses also are same. It should not happen, because when we are talking about the 2 elements, their masses is always different. That is right, that the 2 elements have 2 different atomic masses. But it is a coincidence, you can say, that the sum of the elements coincide in their atomic masses. What happens? Neither the number of proton or number of neutron is equal in these 2 elements, but their addition is equal. Like in the isotopes, number of proton is equal, that is why they are same element, but the number of neutron differs, and due to which they become the isotopic form of each other. But I am going to give you the concept of isobar. Isobar is 2 different atoms. That is why the number of proton is different, and number of neutron is also different. But what I am trying to say, that 5 plus 5 is also 10, and 6 plus 4 is also 10. So that happens in the isobars, and it is also found. Like I have given you the example of argon and calcium. Argon and calcium are totally 2 different elements. Argon is a noble gas, calcium is a metallic element. But argon also has 40 unified mass as its atomic mass, and the calcium also has the 40 unified mass as its atomic mass. Why? Because the argon has 18 protons and 22 neutrons. So the summation is what? 40. But in the case of calcium, 20 proton and 20 neutron. That is why the addition is 40. So the atomic masses are coming equal. And this is found in other atoms also. It is mostly common in the isotopic form of one element and another natural element. I am giving you one example, like carbon 14 is an isotopic form of carbon, and nitrogen 14 is the normal nitrogen. But they coincide in their atomic masses, and that's how they are isobaric form. I hope that it must have been clear to you. but it will become more clear in the next chapter, structure of the atom. I'm ready with one more drawback, that Dalton says that atoms always combine in the smallest ratio, simplest ratio to form compound, but it has been found wrong in the case of organic compounds. Children, organic compounds are nothing but hydrocarbon. The carbon has the property of catenation. They form long series, and the carbon compounds are highly combustible compounds. You will see in petroleum products the compounds are like C2H6, which is your ethane, then C2H4, which is your ethene, etc. But here you can see that this is not the simplest ratio. If you are talking about the simplest ratio, this should be CH2 and this also should be CH3, but that is not the right formula. The right formula is C2H6 and C2H4. So here also Dalton theory is looking failed. Now I am moving towards a very highly criticized drawback, and that Dalton says that the atoms are indestructible, indivisible. But you know that nowadays it is very common to bring the nuclear fusion and fission. Means Dalton is saying that atoms are indestructible, so they cannot be created or destroyed. Atom is permanent from beginning to end. It is an eternal matter. But now from the breaking of the nucleus, nuclide is forming, and that is done by the nuclear fusion and fission reaction, which are the nuclear reaction. So this theory of the Dalton also will be counted as its shortcoming. Now I am coming to the last major drawback of the Dalton theory. The theory does not account for the existence of allotropes. You know that what are allotropes, children? Let me give you a smaller concept of that. Allotropes is the same element which is having different physical property but the same chemical property. Like carbon also has the allotropes like charcoal, graphite, diamond, etc. They all are just carbon. Their physical property is different. Means they will having different kind of crystalline structure. They will show different type of density, mass, etc. But when we will talk about the combustibility, which is the chemical property, and other chemical reaction, then they all are identical because they all are carbon. So from the Dalton theory, this explanation has not been given also. So this is my today's class of Dalton theory, in which I try to make you I try to give you knowledge about the postulates of the Dalton theory, and where Dalton is looking a little having failure in his theory. So my class, I hope that must have remained useful to you. Go through the notes which are given for the drawbacks of the Dalton theory and get benefited, children.